I'm so grateful for waking up this morning and to be here and to see you. Actually, I was quite nervous about coming here. Strangely, I don't usually get nervous the night before, but I just couldn't sleep very well. It's just there's such an important crowd to me. I'm just curious. So, how many people here of Swedish descent? Raise your hand. All right. Välkomna till musik. Tack så mycket. And all that good stuff. So I'm always working on my Swedish. There are also, if you're interested, those children's books I have there on display for sale. Actually, the museum is selling them. So if you are interested in those books, definitely patronize the museum. So I donated a bunch of those to the museum. That way they'll get the money. How many of you are members of the museum or the genealogy group here? All right, great. So I really don't need to invite you to support the museum. But for those who are thinking of not renewing, go ahead and renew. All right. Okay. Let's get started. Some basic things. When we talk about photo restoration, I'm talking about taking damaged pictures, pictures that have problems that need to be fixed. Let's first talk about avoiding that, or at least minimizing the need to have to restore this photo or a photo. How do we keep, these originals in somewhat stable condition as opposed to just getting worse, all right? Number one, when you store your pictures, this is in the handout, you must really work hard to get containers that are archival quality, all right? And archival quality means it says archival, it says PVC free, it says lignin free, things like this type of terminology. And you can find these at Michael's or scrapbook stores, archivers, online, light impressions, almost anywhere. There's so many ways to get these kind of materials to store your pictures. Moisture. It's kind of like, well, of course I'm not going to get my pictures wet. But we don't consider that humidity is moisture, right? So if the room, like this room is pretty much kind of dry. It's probably 50%, maybe 40% humidity, maybe 60 as more people come in and we're breathing. But you really want to keep the humidity level around 50%. So generally, what that means is avoid storing your pictures in attics or in basements where there's not a temperature control, all right, where there's not insulation. Don't just throw them in a box that's airtight. You follow me? Airtight is not a good thing. The way we display them, handling them, for example. Notice I'm using these white gloves, these cotton gloves, all right? We don't want to put our fingertips on the picture. If we have to put our fingertips on the picture, hold it at the edge of the picture. If you can, hold it like this. Hold it at the corner, all right? But I don't want you to, from here on, I don't want you putting your fingers like this. Your bare fingers, yes.
Actually explain why, because many people go,
Yeah.
oh, and they don't
Yeah.
understand what does it
Yes.
really do, or,
Why would you not want to do that? Why? I mean, no. My fingers dry. I just washed them. The oil, yeah. I mean, I just had some fried chicken, and I washed my hands. It's okay. No, your fingertips always have oil on it, always, and that oil will actually sit on the emotion, and it doesn't come off. And what it does is it becomes one with the emotion, and then over years you end up with fingerprints in your pictures, and it adds to the decay of this image. Did you have something you wanted to add?
Well, no, because I'm I'm like, don't. You know, I've always been,
Yeah.
push the handle on the side. And they're like, oh, no big deal. So I thought, well, that's a better answer. I mean, you know, oils versus a fingerprint. But why? Because they're always saying, hey.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah. Very good. And if anyone has anything to share, add any questions, this is actually going to be like an open type of discussion. Yes.
Well, with genealogy and old pictures that maybe you don't know who the people are, I always copy them on my copier. Then when they want to point, they can point at the paper.
Exactly. That's wonderful. And in fact, you could have photo albums like that where you make a copy of the original and then you put that next to the original in its safe place if you want, or just have the copy.
Well, you can put names on the paper copy.
Yep. And on the paper copy?
Another copy of your picture.
Exactly.
You know, but
exactly. And see here on the back of this picture, it has names written, which is very convenient. However, you can't see it from where you are, but I can see the handwriting, the indentation coming through on the front. All right. And in some cases, that's not so bad. But in some cases, there'll be marker or thick blotches of ink that start to come through. So we want to be careful with that. 1 second. If you have to write on the back of the pictures, this is acceptable, but it'd be better if the heads are up here, then do your writing down here. Or do your writing around the edge. The main thing is you want to avoid your writing in the middle. Yes, ma'am.
Also, the beautiful folders that the old pictures came in. Take them out of those because they're acid. Plus, as you take them out, write down the photographer and where it was from, because that might be a clue of where your relatives live.
All right, so everyone heard that. All right, that's excellent, excellent tips. And what is she saying about the acid, all right, in the paper? Look at this document, all right? This document, all the browning that you see, that's what she's talking about. All right, now, this unfortunately is the document. This is the original document that's that way. But imagine if you store your pictures in something that has this. It will affect the picture. So if the box is not acid-free, is not lignin-free, acid-free, then your originals are going to decay faster. Yes, ma'am. Wow.
So I had a piece, I sent a piece of plastic mark.
Yes.
Try to put it in
Yes.
but
Yes.
I left the pieces in that piece are soluble plastic.
Yes.
Until I could find somewhere for someone who can help me put it.
Yes. Yes. So again, there's another great example of, well, I've got a disaster. How do I make it not worse? It's kind of like if you're injured, right, and you have an injury, you have a broken bone or broken skin, what is it called? It's called first aid. So you want to apply that same principle to your pictures if you can. Give them first aid. You may not be able to save them or bring them back to normal the way they were before, but at least you can stabilize them and keep them from getting worse. Rubber cement, paper clips, rubber bands. Generally, these are very bad things to connect your pictures together with, all right? Again, if you have to use these things, then like we were advised, make a copy. You can make a high quality copy of it. That's the one you can paper clip, you can glue, that kind of thing. And I always tell people, and I do this myself, is when it comes to displaying photos in your home or elsewhere, display a copy. Keep the original out of the light, especially sunlight. Sunlight is so destructive to your pictures. If you have, how many of y'all have original pictures that are displayed in your house? Yeah. And how many of them are where there's some sunlight? Yeah. So I want you, when you get home, get those things out of the sunlight, make your copies, just go anywhere, Walgreens, a photo lab, whatever, and make a copy that you're satisfied with, display that, put the original in a safe place. Now we're going to start. We're going to start doing some work. Enough talk. Unless you have some questions about that. Great. So, and I had a PowerPoint that went along with this, but like I said, I'm a little frazzled with, I was like, oh no, I'm going to hook up my projector here. So let's get started. Now on the handout, there's a section, it's called Scan It. And that's the section that we're going to do, that's what we're going to do right now. So I'm going to kind of tip my scanner up. Maybe you all, it's a small group, so y'all should have an idea of what I'm talking about here. This is a typical flatbed scanner. My favorite brand, if you're interested, is Epson, E-P-S-O-N. When it comes to photo scanners, these are really, they're very reliable brand. I don't like HP and the others simply because I have not had positive experiences scanning photos and artwork with them where the software in them doesn't, how can I say without being too technical, the software does, in my opinion, a poor job of capturing all of the color and all the levels of shadows and contrast in the picture, all right? So in a lot of times, pretty much it will, what's called compress the data. You and many other people who may not be doing this full time for a living like me, working on pictures, may not notice it, but I do, and it's disturbing to me. Epson is clearly, in my opinion, the best because if you scan it good with these settings that I share with you, it's going to be fine. It captures everything, and you don't have to worry about the file being compromised. All right? Any questions on that, what I just said? Yes? Oh, the Flip Pal. Yeah, on my blog I did a review. If you go to photographics.pro, and I won't discuss it in its entirety now, but right here on the website, I'll show you. It's called the blog. And I click on that, and I want you to click on this and click on that and click on, no. And right in this search box, up at the top left, type in flip. And that will give you the search results. FlipPal is a good tool, but needs more fixing. Now this was, I wrote this in 2013, but it's still relevant today. Yeah, so there's that blog, and I'm going to close that out. FlipPal does a great job for getting quick, when you need quick scans and you know you cannot take the original home with you to do on a nice, big, fancy scanner, it's a real lifesaver, all right? And I highly recommend it. However, the detail of the scans are not, in my opinion, as good as the Epson. The stitching software, where basically FlipPal's a little tiny handheld scanner. Who's not familiar with FlipPal, raise your hand. It's basically a little tiny handheld scanner that's this big. You could put it in your pocket almost, and you just scan. You could scan a whole map. You could scan an 8x10. You could scan a 4x6, whatever, and it's only this big. And you, at the press of a button, it will stitch all those images together into one, if it's one big image. Of course, if it's one little image, you won't need that. And the stitching software, in my opinion, is really good. It actually is very good. I've found it better than Photoshop's, actually, Adobe's. Yeah, great question, great question. So use it as a tool, but do know it has some limitations, in my opinion. And they've never responded to me, so maybe it's something that's out of their realm.
What makes a good scan?
What is a selection?
What are layers?
What is resolution?
What is a JPEG?
What is TIFF?
What is RGB?
How do I crop a picture?
What is a zoom tool?
What is a clone stamp?
What are levels?
My name is Eric Basir, and I have produced this unique photo restoration and retouching foundations video course to answer all these questions and more. In my classes and workshops, I have taught hundreds how to preserve and restore their personal photographic collections with Adobe Photoshop and Adobe Photoshop Elements. Now you can have me as your personal instructor in this 10-lesson course. After studying the videos and easy-to-read workbook, you'll finish with a firm foundation of how to use Adobe Photoshop or any other photo editing program confidently and correctly.
A real basic thing when you're going to scan, basic housekeeping is make sure the surface is clean. That will reduce a lot of additional problems. All right, and essentially, window cleaner on a rag, spray the rag and wipe. And when you wipe, kind of like if you've ever had any experience with photography and lenses, you start in the middle and wipe outwards. And it ends up kind of pushing the crud outwards. All right? Yeah, just real basic stuff. Nothing too fancy, but it can make a difference. And then, of course, make sure it's dry before you put your originals on there. All right? But you have to use window cleaner. And alcohol is a problem because sometimes it leaves streaks. And say what? Vinegar and water? I haven't done that one. It's an old house remedy that it works. So I'm gonna trust that one.
What about those cloths that you can buy in those little packets?
Yeah, a little lens cleaning cloth. A little lens cleaning cloth is fine. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, no paper towels because it leaves little bits of paper. You know, no matter how expensive it is, generally you don't want to mess with that. And then it's disposable. You don't want to be throwing stuff out all the time. So let's pick a picture to work on for our first example. Yes, go ahead and ask a question. Yeah, oh, I'm sorry. Did anyone else bring any pictures? Yeah, bring it up here. I can't guarantee I'm going to get to everyone, but I'd like to have a little assortment. So, oh, nice. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. This is oversized, too. I like this. You know what, this actually, I like this one. This presents a lot of problems. All right, so we have this. It's not so easy to see from where you're at in the light here, but essentially this is a photograph that has a painterly touch to it, and it actually is hand tinted, retouched. It's very beautiful. Who are these people and where are they from?
These are my great-grandparents. And my great-grandmother died in 1901.
1901.
So my great-grandfather died in 1893, and she remarried his brother. So I don't know if this is my great-grandfather or his brother.
Very interesting. And where are they? I'm just curious. Do you know?
In Sweden.
In Sweden.
around Örebro.
Okay, Airbo. Okay, good. All right, fascinating. What a handsome couple. All right, or brother, uncle, whatever.
Do you know about timing?
No, I'm not a dating expert. No, sorry. I just like to look at their pictures, I guess. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scan. This is an oversize, right? So the same thing that I would do for an oversize, I would do for a very small picture, you know. All right, something this size. And I just picked it up. Notice I used my fingers, but I held it. So my scanner fell asleep. Second here. So we're gonna. When you buy the scanner, it gives you a software to install, and the software that you install allows your computer to talk with the scanner. This, as you see, this is called Epson Scan. That's the actual software that is very good. And it comes with the scanner. You don't have to buy it.
What does something like that Roughly.
You can get a scanner like what I have for $100, 150, 200. Of course, the more you pay, the better, more features you get. So I suggest, as a genealogist, don't get the low end. You know, if you want a low end, you get the paper, Flip Pal. That'll be kind of your low end, but it's still. I'm not putting it down as low end. I'm saying low end as kind of inexpensive and quick.
But it's still an Epson, so.
It's not an Epson. The Flip Pal's not Epson.
So
It's an
that
independent
name is
company.
not- okay.
Yeah. It's a different company. But you want a nice, you know, kind of big scale. All right, I've had this problem before. We're gonna, no problem. Any questions? Yes.
If you have, like I inherited like 30-some photo albums from my mother.
Nice.
When I go to scan pictures, can I scan like a whole page at a time, or is that not recommended?
So if you have a whole a page of pictures, this is kind of like a rough example of what you're
Right.
talking about. You know, there's multiple images on there. Either way, it's fine. What I'm going to show you will allow you to scan from that one sheet. And it's going to work. Here, it's working. Any other questions? Good. All right. So my module is here, and I don't want you all to get caught up in like, what's he pressing? Don't worry about that right now. We're just dealing with some principles. All right. All of this stuff is, you'll pick it up on your own if you buy something like this. Trust me. But the principle is, you do a preview. In a preview, that you're telling the scanner, capture everything that's on the flatbed. All right? And of course, we have that. Now, let's say, let me put this glove on. Let's say we have one picture here, and we'll scan it. And what I like to do is use this box. Every scanner software has this. It's a preview box. And you're telling you, okay, I want you to scan everything inside these little marching ants. All right? And I always say, and this is in my my handout under Scan It, you want to scan big, all right? You don't ever want to scan something and then enlarge it later. You actually want to scan it big, and then you can shrink it down. Anyone know why? Because of the pixels? Yeah. But that, I don't know if I feel that like I would, what, anyone else? Okay, detail, which is related to pixels. Because you get when you tell the scanner, I want you to capture more detail, make this bigger, it's going to add in more pixels. All right? So you want to scan big, at least at 100%, and I'll show you down here. See, it's a scale, 100%. A different brand may say zoom or magnification. All right? And the other very important number, and I mentioned this also, is the dots per inch, or it's actually pixels per inch. And this is where the scan big comes in. All right? It should be a minimum of 300. If you want bigger, you have to add more. So then you would tell it how much more. How much more would you go? Always go by a multiplication factor of 2. So if I want to go bigger, yeah, I would go 600. And if I want to go nutso, I would go 1200. I don't see a reason for that unless you are scanning small images, little tiny pictures like negatives and slides. Even this one may not need that, 1200. All right, 600 will be sufficient.
So how do you know to start at 300 versus 600? Just by usage and going through it, like to blow them up enough so where they're not blown up? You know, like
Yeah. How do you know? It's, I can tell you this much, it's hard to know.
So you just do and see.
Do your minimum of 300. And then as you begin to, you know, if you keep doing this type of thing on your own, which I would hope you would do, because somebody's got to scan your pictures,
You'll see it.
you'll start to see the difference, and then you'll start seeing, wow, that's a big picture, big file. Now you say, well, how do I email it then? I can't email this giant picture. Well, then you make it smaller after you scan, and you make a copy smaller. Let's move on so that we can actually do that. So let's scan this part, and for time purposes only, because the scan will take a long time, I'm actually going to crop this, all right? Just for time. Do not do this at home. All right? And it's going to scan. And what's nice about Epson software is you can do a prefix. You can actually customize the file name. You ever notice when you make a new document or a new file, what do you get for the default name? New picture, untitled, right? Untitled 1, untitled 2, untitled 3, picture 1, picture. It's like, what picture is this? This is picture untitled 1-1. Well, here you can actually customize that. So let's just say Nordic Family History Center dash 2015, and then we say Erebro, right? Did I spell that right? Oh, it's You know I can say it. You know I can say it. Let's see if it types it in. No, it won't let me type it in. But I can type it in if I could. Örebro, bro. Yeah, okay. And the start number 1. And I click OK. Oh, by the way, one other thing before I click OK is the file format. And I mentioned this. You have to save as TIFF as the file format. Never save your scans as JPEG. Anyone know why? Some of y'all know why. No? See, this is why I've been teaching since 2001, genealogists, and I don't need to really update or change my lecture because there's so many people that still need to know the basics. All right, so why not JPEG? Here I can choose JPEG instead of TIFF or all the PDF, blah, 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 A, B, C, D, F, G, whatever. JPEG is a file format that was originally made to send photographs over wire services from different parts in the world to newspapers and magazines. They had to take an image, a photograph, scan it in, and it had to be small enough, compact enough, so that the detail, the image, the color will go over and can be reproduced on newsprint or magazine paper or etc. Well, when the internet became accessible for everybody, we needed ways to put pictures on the internet that didn't take forever to download. Well, JPEG, they continued to use JPEG for that. However, JPEG compresses color data, and what that means is it averages out different shades or different lightness, or basically if you have a blue sky that looks beautiful, dark blue to light blue, the JPEG will average that out and it will be slightly blocky. And did you ever notice on some pictures that people would email you that the face looks blocky or the sky looks blocky? It looks like squares. That's called JPEG compression. And that's how you make a picture small. So we don't want our original scans to be compressed. We want our original scans to look just like the original. So TIFF, which is also a very old format back in the desktop publishing days of the 1980s, TIFF is a perfect format for you, and it's universal. Mac, PC, whatever, all right? It's what I call an archival quality format, all right? Does that answer your questions? Any questions on that? Yes, I hit it. Okay, PNG is another format that is lossless, which is good in quality. But PNG is best for web graphics. That's what it's really designed for. So that you don't have, if you had a round picture, you don't have a white background around it. It's transparent around it. So PNG maintains transparency. Sorry, y'all, don't worry. Those of you who don't deal with PNGs, don't worry about it. I'm just addressing her specific.
But so it would be better to do a TIFF than to create something else.
Right. If you want to share it as PNG, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, yeah. But definitely go TIFF. Any other questions on that? All right, so from here on, when you get home, if you're dealing with scans and files, TIFF. Now keep in mind, TIFF can't be displayed on the website on a pedigree chart, typically in your software. You're going to have to save as a JPEG, save a copy as a JPEG. Got it? All right, good. All right, so let's look. Now, what we would do in the case of the other side of the picture is I would turn it over, scan, all right? And then I would have two pictures. And using something like Photoshop, I would stitch them together. And it has a little plug-in to let you do that. Or I would do it manually if I was a nerd about it, you know, that kind of thing, all right? Let's open this up. Any questions? Feel free. We're not going to have a formal Q&A. I do want you to interact with me as we go. All right, so everybody okay? I'm not putting you to sleep yet? Oh, good. I hate to do that. You know what? I put it in the wrong folder. So let me show you something. Here's another, I did the custom. Oh, and look at that. I'm doing a new scan, and look at what it did. It gave me a start number of 02. Pretty cool, right? Automatic. But I didn't pick the right folder, because it says up here, location. I didn't choose the Northern Family. I picked the Northwest Indiana Genealogical Society. So now you know where I was last. There we go. All right. So that's scanning. Any questions? I want to go through, because we call this photo restoration from start to finish, so I'll kind of breeze through this. How long does it take to restore a picture? You know, sometimes we wonder. Generally, something like this, you know, will take just under an hour for me. But I work very fast with my workflow. You know, a beginner, I would say give yourself a good couple hours. You know, take your time with something like this. All right, let's open this. Now, I want to ask, how many, could you raise your hand and tell me if you have a program called Photoshop Elements? All right, we have a couple. How many of you have something, Adobe Photoshop? That's the more expensive one. All right, got that too. All right, let's go around the room. What else? Is there any other photo software you use that's not Photoshop? Don't be embarrassed. Picasso. Yeah. It's great. And you're using Picasso, the desktop version on your computer. Yeah, yeah. So Picasso, in a lot of the prints, it's easy to work with. And Picasso is, a lot of what you do in Photoshop, it crosses over to Picasso. It functions very much the same. Yeah, that. Yeah. Right. Right. Let me, you know what, I messed up here. I have to do another preview. Yeah, it's yeah, that's why it wasn't working. So I'm at number 4. There is so many great programs out there. There's also a program, I didn't write it down, but it's called, you might want to write it down, it's called Paint Shop Pro. And the company is Corel, C-O-R-E-L. And that is an amazing program. It is just like Photoshop. It's for Windows only. It's just like the big professional version of Photoshop with lots of great support, lots of help. Does some stuff a little better than Photoshop, frankly. And I think it's less than $100.
So
it's
amazing.
It's
called Paint Shop by Corel for Windows only?
Yeah, it's for Windows only. Yeah, there's not a Mac version. So yes. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, one of the things that I've done with Picasso is you can accumulate it in the tray, and you can take that whole tray and make an album out of it. You can email that album directly to the
And that's a really nice feature to have a nice organizer of your pictures in Picasso and be able to email them out. And it resizes them too, right?
Yeah, you can resize.
But it does it before it. In the script, it does something. Yeah. Okay. So this is upside down. No problem. So you have to turn around right now and stand in your chair on your head. So I'm going to use Elements for this workshop just because it's very accessible. I don't use Elements full time. I just help teach with it. And since Adobe is now renting their software, I haven't upgraded, and I won't. I'm boycotting them. Even if it means my livelihood, I don't care because I can still use the old version to make money. Can you believe that they're renting their software? I have to pay them $20 a month to use their software. Bunch of jerks.
What was that?
Adobe. I'm just griping. Pardon me.
We like grapes.
Yeah. So let me close this bin here. So when we have our picture scanned, The first thing I like to do is, when I'm restoring, is in Picasa, in Photoshop, in PaintShop Pro, you know what, the panels are being cropped on here. All these programs have what's called layers. And I need to, hopefully this will let me take it out. All right, good. I got that out, but I don't need it. And this layer palette, there we go, is a very important part of your workflow. And I will what's called duplicate the background layer, and I'll explain why and what this means. By default, every picture that you open in a photo editing program has one layer. And the layer is, like a piece of paper, an image. All right? When you duplicate that, you make a copy of it on top. So I have put a copy of this on top of this. And what this will allow me to do, I will then be doing my work, actually retouching on this. And if I make mistakes or I want to see my progress before and after, all I have to do is turn this one off and on, erase it or delete it and make a new one, whatever I want to do, build another one on top of another one. And it helps me manage my work so that I don't get stressed out thinking, oh no, look what I did. Look at, like for example, some terrible mistake you might make. Oops, what did I do? You know, and what is this? You know, and this happens, you know, especially when you're just starting out. Like, what did I do? Where did that come from? Because you were working down here and all of a sudden, what? Well, just, there's your background copy. You just delete that, all right? And my computer hangs up on me. So you would delete that and start again.
What makes a good scan?
What is a selection?
What are layers?
What is resolution?
What is a JPEG?
What is TIFF?
What is RGB?
How do I crop a picture?
What is a zoom tool?
What is a clone stamp?
What are levels?
My name is Eric Basir, and I have produced this unique photo restoration and retouching foundations video course to answer all these questions and more. In my classes and workshops, I have taught hundreds how to preserve and restore their personal photographic collections with Adobe Photoshop and Adobe Photoshop Elements. Now you can have me as your personal instructor in this 10-lesson course. After studying the videos and easy-to-read workbook, you'll finish with a firm foundation of how to use Adobe Photoshop or any other photo editing program confidently and correctly.
Another nice thing is when you are duplicating the background layer, you save it, but you save it as a slightly different file name because you want your original file to be untouched, the original scan. So here he is. Great. So we will rotate. I'm going to go to image, and you could rotate in the scanner too. I didn't do it in this case. And let me pull out my layers again. Yes, I know it crashed. Thank you. So helpful. All right. Let's duplicate that background. Now I save as, I put a dash and an R1 or a V1, version 1, revision 1. That way I've got the same file name and I have my original and my working file, the one I'm working on. Now up here there's going to give you, they'll give you options when you save as a TIFF. And I like to choose what's called LZW image compression, and it's a form of compression that does not mess with the quality of the picture. And what I mean by compression is it makes the file a little bit smaller. Okay? And I always like a little bit smaller. We don't need to be big. You know, we can be Swedes and just enough. It's big enough. All right. So you'll notice then the file name changes and it has R1. Very important step. It may seem like, wow, this is, but no matter what you're working on, this is how you want to do it. Because if you do it this way, as you learn doing things yourself, it's easier to come back and fix it later. Because that's what you'll find yourself doing. Or, you know, none of us are promised tomorrow. So whoever of our relatives or children or whatever might take over, then they have something they can work with. All right. After we save it, we want to clean up the minor defects. And in my opinion, a lot of these are minor defects. And there's various tools you can use for that. All right, one of the most basic ones is called the clone stamp tool. And all the programs have this, Adobe and otherwise. And you just, using your keyboard, your Alt key, and your mouse, you click on an area next to the spot that is in good condition. And I just clicked and I let go of my Alt key or my Option key. And then you put your brush over that area and you stroke. All right? Hopefully y'all can see that. So here's, I'm going to turn this off, before, after. You want to get all those spots. I like the healing brush for things like this, which is very similar to the clone stamp. And it's over here, called healing brush. And they like I said, all the programs have it. Same principle, Alt Option, click and wipe away. All right. It's very similar, but what I like about it is clone stamp actually literally copies the area. Healing brush copies the area, but it also kind of randomizes it so that it doesn't look like a footprint. So here I'll show you, for example. This is clone stamp. This is clone stamp tool or rubber stamp tool. So I click and drag. And
so you can keep going, you just keep moving.
It's
right?
and then what it
just do one spot and go back.
Yeah, but then look at what's happening, you know. You got to be careful. I just moved his necktie around, you know. So you got to what I'm trying to show by that is that it literally copies everything in the area. But the healing brush is also aware of, and it's so hard to see on this screen, I'm so sorry, it's so dark, but it's also sensitive to the
changing of color as it moves along. Is it more?
Yeah, it blends the color better than the clone stamp. Clone stamp will copy everything, color and detail. Healing brush copies color and detail, but then if you put it in a lighter area, it will do a better job of making it look realistic, not looking fake. Because you don't want your retouching to look fake, all right? So the basically after we save, we're doing our basic minor stuff here. Let me zoom out here.
So you're doing that with the clone or the healing?
In this case, I was doing the clone.
Okay.
In some cases, it doesn't really make a difference. You got to work with them.
Just as long as you stay in that area of the same clone.
Stay in the same area, but you know the most important part, people, is that I want you to come away with feeling free to experiment, and so that you can actually learn and understand what you're doing, as opposed to, am I doing the right thing? Well, does it look okay to you? Well, you're doing the right thing then. But make sure you're working, like I said, in layers. Go ahead.
And remember, It's only on a computer. You can start over.
It's only on a computer. You could start over. Exactly. But make sure that you duplicated your background layer and you saved as a working copy, because you might not have another chance to rescan, right? So that computer part is helpful, but still we can get stuck if the scan isn't very good. I'm working on a job right now. There's this book. He's printing an archive of images of a particular family, like a dynastic family in India. He needed their pictures. Their scans were awful. And I had to work on them. So, you know, he's like, I can't go back to India.
So you're working on his awful scans and taking them and making them better.
And they were, those people hired, that family hired someone to scan them. So they're just crappy scans and we can't do anything about it. You know what I mean? He's like, we just got to do it. I got a deadline. So anyways, you can enhance, quote unquote, the quality, but if your scan is bad, you'll just enhance the bad part. You'll enhance the badness. You can help it. You could take a blurry picture and make it look a little sharper, but it doesn't become sharper. It just builds up contrast, and it gives you the illusion of sharpness, all right? But these are very sharp photographs and very sharp scans. We have lots to work with. Now, after you after you finish cleaning up all the spots, I did not clean up all the spots, but we just want to move on just to demonstrate to you what you would do. Next is you would repair missing pieces, the hard stuff. And this is, you know, they might call this in the professional world of retouching, you'll hear, I've heard hard retouching and extra retouching, whatever. But let's get something with a missing piece that would be, here's something interesting. I don't know if you can see it from here, but this is what looks to be a shipyard and half of the picture's gone. That's a missing piece that,
Right?
yeah, I'm, what's over here?
That's you.
Exactly. I don't know. But if they said, well, I have a picture from World Book Encyclopedia of this same type of ship, well, then I say, okay, well, I could rebuild this ship that way. It's going to cost you a lot of money because it's going to take me a long time. But then you use your artistic abilities. Let's get something which a little more manageable as far as a missing piece goes. You know, I might go back to this other one. Well, let's.
It's missing a piece, right? Oh, it's
Yeah, but it's kind of. So what? It's missing. You know, no one cares, really. It's like grass or something.
you need something else.
You know, we're gonna go back to this one.
He's missing his.
He's missing part of his blazer.
Right, there you go.
Yeah. So let's try this again. So we're doing okay on time?
We have all the time in the
Good,
world.
good. Let's see. I gotta be somewhere. No, just kidding. I gotta be here. I'm really, yeah, I really want to show you this rebuilding. So rebuilding missing parts is interesting. There's lots of ways to do it. While my scanner warms up, any questions? Yes, sir.
The whole photograph that was cardboardy, something's folded in half.
Yeah, so you have an old photograph that's been folded, and it's got a, yeah, and the crease is like going right down the face, right down through the nose, and Yeah, yeah. Oh, sure, you can fix that. Let's give some more room here, because we can do answer that question here too. Let me go. Don't do what I'm about to do. Like I said, I'm just doing this for speed, because the scans is a lot slower, takes more time the bigger the image. So I'm decreasing the resolution, which is a no-no. But again, this is just for demonstration. Any other questions? Yes.
Question about writing on back of the pictures. I've heard that you should only write with such and such. Maybe it's pencil. You know, if you
Yeah,
write or
yeah.
write with anything, is there a rule?
Yeah.
What to write with?
Yeah, pencil. I don't know if you've had this experience, but I've gone to an archive where there's no pens, there's just pencils, you know. They just don't want people accidentally getting ink on documents.
But I thought it was because maybe the pen ink would go through. I mean, there's
That's one reason.
of pressure.
Yeah.
You know, but then
Yeah,
the other is
that's basically the reason, is that your ink is moisture, you know, and it's going to soak in. The paper absorbs that stuff. That's the purpose of it, and it will damage. And in some cases, in some cases, it will actually smear. It will expand over the years and become real blotchy. I've seen that at least with older pictures. Yes, ma'am.
Well, in the modern day, we have the ballpoint pen as opposed to the fountain pen. But
Fountain.
it makes a trough
Yes.
for the ink to go into. And once it's in that trough, as opposed to a pencil, it can go through the picture.
So here we go. Here's an excellent technical answer right there, and that's perfect. I think I gotta have you as my assistant, sitting up here with me to make sure all the facts get out. Yeah, exactly. That whole concept of the trough of the ballpoint pen on there, and then the ink just saying, "Hey, man, I'm just gonna soak in here." Let's close this. Yes, yes. No, no dumb questions.
But all these photo pictures or whatever, you have to buy them.
Photo what?
Like photo programs.
In order to do what you're doing, you can't just do it on your computer now or whatever there is on the computer. You have to go and get it from there.
Well, it depends on what you have on your computer. I would have to know. And in,
I've got Windows 7.
so you have Windows 7,
Yeah.
and it has a picture editing program?
I don't know.
I don't know.
How would you know anyhow? I mean,
Go into your programs, you probably have Microsoft Photoshop
Yeah.
at least.
I would have.
All right, so, yeah, yeah. I recommend getting a standalone editor, like you have Elements, I think. So I recommend that, and like I said, I think it's a good investment. In Elements, you can get pretty cheap, less than $100. Adobe Photoshop Elements. Obviously, I've been doing this too long. Yeah, yeah. I get so familiar with this stuff. I'm like a doctor running off. What'd you say to me? I got. Oh, sorry. You have acne. Okay, thank you. All right, so all right, so let's rotate this. So let's talk about missing pieces. So after we cleaned up all the spots that are here, which I didn't, and we duplicated the background layer, right? We saved it as our working copy, all that stuff. One thing we could do to rebuild a missing piece, and sometimes it works and sometimes, in this case, it's really not going to work, but I just want to illustrate a point, is we use our clone stamp tool. And
I have a question right now. Your clone thing was in between, it was
Yeah.
half on one side and half on the other, and if you were to use that, wouldn't you kind of be getting a line, like a ball with a line in it? So you got to be careful with your clone.
you got to be careful where you're cloning. But let me just show you real quick. I'm going to source this area, option click, and I'm going to click down here. See that? That's the option, I'm sorry, Alt option click. It's a, these tools are like a two-step tool. But I just wanted to show you, again, the screen is not doing justice.
It looks like it's darker.
It is. It's a lot darker. It doesn't match. But I wanted to show you that here's one way to rebuild. Now the other way, the way I prefer, is to actually take part of this using a selection tool up here called lasso. All right? And what I do is I select the area I want to extend. All right. Now the edge of this is very harsh, and I will show you what happens. Just like a Microsoft Word, I will copy and I will paste. And in the layer palette over here, it shows you what I just copied and pasted. I take my move tool, because I have to now move this part that I just pasted. Bring it down. And as you see, the edge is very harsh. You see that? That's really fake looking. So we don't want that. All right, so I'm gonna.
Can you go over that with your healing?
No, don't. Not right now. That's just a bad selection.
Okay.
I want to show you. I've gone back in my, you know how you do undo, 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 undo? So I've been doing that, undo, 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 to this selection. What I need to do is soften the edge of the selection. So I go to select, because that's a selection, and I go to feather. Feather is going to soften the selection. I'm going to choose something called 10 pixels. So for 10 pixels around the edge of that selection, it's going to start to fade off into softness. And you'll see in a moment. Copy, paste. Let's see if my, look at that, see? See the softness there? All right. It's a real rough way in my opinion to do this. But I want to show you the options and the various principles. See that? And then from here I can doesn't quite match there.
So if one side lines up, can you erase the other side, like draw
Yeah,
and erase
yeah,
the right side?
yeah. So yeah, you can you don't like one part, you can erase that, like you said. You can cut it out with the lasso tool, or you can just select little portions and move them down. Let me show you here how I could extend this and still maintain a realistic edge up here. And we'll go to, I think it's layer. The big Photoshop that I use, the professional side, is the layout's a little different in here. Resize, no. Transform, I need transform. Where's transform, you elements? Ah, thank you. Transform. And what I'll do then is just kind of, no, don't do that. All right, let me try that. Transform, distort. Let's try that. There we go. So I'm extending his lapel a little bit. Now you see inside we're getting footprinting or poor looking retouching inside his vest, but that's okay because we can go back like it was suggested with the eraser tool. Over here, how convenient, it actually looks like a pink eraser. And I can erase this stuff that I don't like. Now, let me turn off this extended part and turn it on. Zoom out, turn it off, turn it on. We still have some lightness issues going on. Over here we have some, you know, obvious retouching here. It isn't pretty, you know. I can adjust the, as far as my eraser, you see how harsh the edge is? That's not always useful. Exactly. In the brush size, up here, these are brushes, we can choose a softer edge brush. Let me choose, so it's not so harsh there. But at least we're working on his lapel. And then we can lighten this out to start to make it look like, because it does get, the way the photo is made, everything falls out getting lighter. It's a vignette effect. So there's various tools to do that with. Anyone here did any darkroom work ever? Work in a darkroom? Once? God, I feel so, you know, like old. No one knows about darkrooms. But even the photographers, it's just everything is digital. There's these generations of professional photographers that never worked in a darkroom. To me, it's weird. But anyways, there's tools in Photoshop called burn and dodge. And this will allow you to lighten. Again, I sometimes goof with my getting my elements in the big Photoshop confused, so pardon me here.
Now, if you were to purchase the disc set for $149 or whatever,
yeah,
does it explain all these tools
yes.
here that you're using and doing it?
Yeah. There we go. I knew it was here. Pardon me. This that I'm doing is not in the course specifically. I kind of deal with the problems a little better, but I do it in stages so that, like right now I'm kind of throwing you all in the deep end, but I'm giving you life preservers so you don't drown. It's not a good way to get you started into swimming. You know what I mean? So you should start them in the shallow end, get them rid of the fear of water first, if there is one. So anyways, dodge tool. And, oh, you're leaving us. Well, thank you. Make sure you take a card and go to my website, and I got lots of videos. I got a YouTube channel, things to help you. All right? No charge. Thanks for coming. All right, so in this case, I'm going to dodge what's called highlights. I want to brighten this area, and I want to make the exposure very light. I'll make my brush nice and big. There's so many ways to do this. I just wanted to show you one way. So please don't be overwhelmed. I don't feel overwhelmed. I just want you to think of, wow, this is something I can do. And I lighten it. And it's exaggerated. I have to exaggerate it now so that you can see it on screen. But let me go to undo, redo. You see that? So I kind of lighten that up to help that vignetting. Assuming I finished rebuilding his entire jacket, that's what I would have to do. And he just left. I was going to do the crease. So I'll do the crease for you all. I feel terrible. I didn't.
If you go to print something out, do you have a certain quality of paper that you stand by?
Okay, so you want to do your own prints at home. You want to get for your printer. What is the printer? What printer? Do you have one?
You know what? I leave it all up to my husband. I'll print something out, or just get photo paper.
Yeah.
But if there's a certain kind of paper that's better than another one,
all right,
look at
good.
photo paper.
Good question.
Yeah.
My recommendation when it comes to making your own photographic prints is to buy the paper that is manufactured by the printer that you have. So if you have an Epson, I want you to get Epson paper. If you have HP, I want you to get HP paper.
So you can, is that somewhere like you can go into, what do they call it? Office Depot?
Yes,
and all
Office
those, they have
Depot,
all
Office
the
Max.
print
I would buy my
same.
paper there. Yeah. You can buy, yeah, whatever you want online.
But that's better, so that.
And ink too, ink. Buy the manufacturer's ink for your photos.
So you can get better quality by buying there, not just for them
Yeah,
to sell it because, it's because.
yeah.
Is there something called archival ink?
Is there something called archival ink? Great question. Great question. Well, the manufacturer's ink, they're always working on improving it. So that's why I would buy the manufacturer's ink. For your, if you're going to print stuff and you want people, you're like, I don't want to take it to a lab. I want to print it and give it away to family members, to relatives. There's no, the manufacturers don't have, well, this is archival ink and this is not. So it's, as long as they keep it out of the sunlight, it'll be okay. I have stuff that's printed from 1998, 97 on inkjet. It looks the same to me, you know what I mean? But it's in a book. It's not exposed to air, much air, or no sunlight. So sunlight is a major thing. Yes. You know, that's the other thing is when prints were made, especially the 70s, there was chemistry changes, print changes, but color is tricky, and the photo paper and the chemistry that was used in the processing. And then y'all have some of the pictures of the dimple texture from the 70s. The 60s, where it's like they did that so that people, their fingerprints wouldn't stay on the pictures. Yeah. Oh, those are awful. Yeah, those are just like, and when you scan them, they're worse because the scanner light exaggerates the bumpiness because the light makes shadows inside. Oh, it's just, I hate it. Yeah.
Question, she was talking about the wedding certificate, and with all those pieces,
Right.
what I would do, but maybe it's not correct, because it's an original document, and maybe you want that, and you don't want to just make a printout of what it was, why couldn't you take, like, book tape, because it's acid-free, it doesn't discolor, and piece it together?
Yeah, it's.
I mean, is that something that, I mean, in all your studies and classes, or
No.
whatever, do they not, I mean, if you really want the original document also to stay intact, I mean, how could you put that together with it?
Well, you have to. You take you.
Well, that's going to cost.
It's a conservator is what you're going to have to deal with, and that's going to be extremely expensive. And you can't. And the problem is when you have multiple pieces of the image. I mean, common sense would be okay. Vacuum press it against the glass as is, and it will stay in place. Yeah, but then you have glass connected to the picture, and if any moisture gets in there, it gets stuck to the glass. And you know what I mean? It's so.
Well, I used archival tape that I got
Yeah.
from, there's a catalog on archival things.
Archival book tape.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you could try it. I
My
don't know.
grandfather's citizenship papers, because I had some stuff from my mother, and there was this little pocket about that big. I wondered what was in there.
Yeah.
And it was his citizenship paper.
Wow.
So I
Wow.
basically laid it out on like a placemat, and put another placemat on top and turned it over, so once I had it together,
Yeah.
I could tape on the back side.
Oh, sure. No, yeah, definitely. I mean, it's an option. It's an
But
option.
then you can't put it together unless you see the
Yeah.
begin with.
Absolutely.
But you have to be able to flip
Yeah.
and then work with it.
And it could be a temporary measure too. It doesn't necessarily have to be tape that's sticky permanently, you know. Yeah, the archival gold. Yeah, those are useful. Let's just while we were on that topic, let me just jump to the side here real quick to explain something to you. When we have a picture or document that is rolled up, all right, and it's like, oh, the more I unroll it, the more I hear it rip. You know, and it's just like, okay, I'm not gonna open this anymore. All right, the way to get this thing manageable, I'm not gonna say you're gonna get it flat, but the way to get it manageable is to take an object that is soft, and we're going to use, for example, my nose. No, I want to get a glove here. Yes, thank you. So here we have this. This will take a couple weeks, okay? So did y'all bring your sleeping bags? No.
So not to be in a hurry, because I have something like that. That's really like.
Yeah. So I'm taking this. Yeah, please. If you can't see, get up, please, because I don't want to.
Is that to relax the paper
Yeah.
over time?
Yeah. And in a couple days, I get another one. Another soft thing. Put it here. And then open it. Put it here. Right? Eventually, it behaves more. All right? Then I could put something bigger or flat on it. You know. Put a little, yeah, then I can put a little pillowcase on top of it and then put a little box on top of that. And eventually it will get flat. Just don't forget about it. This is like a rough way to do this. There's a lot of ways to do it. You can get a sheet of glass or plexiglass and lay it on top.
Should you start with that? I mean, you were saying soft.
Well,
so
not to
soft or
start.
hard?
No,
So soft.
no, I wouldn't do with something. This is softer paper. I've found this is harder.
Yes.
This is, you've got to start soft. Then you would put your plexiglass or whatever, or your hard flattened object. But you got to relax it in stages
So just
because
start
it
soft.
breaks.
Yeah, yeah.
And especially there's pictures like this that are photos, and some of them are glossy, and the glossy photos, they crack and the emotion starts to break off. You understand? So you can't make it worse. So you do it like that. It takes time.
It wasn't rolled, it was flat.
It was flat.
And when I did it, with even doing it that way, it may have come apart. Because about,
Maybe just so brittle.
Sometimes there's nothing you can do about it.
Okay.
And I've had a customer even tell me, I know, just break it. You know, get it open, please, and scan it for me. You know what I mean? And work on it. And it was in pieces. It was like in 6 different pieces. It came to me as one. And we both understood that this is going to happen. But we had to get it in. It was a panoramic of a bunch of soldiers or something. I don't remember. So we were talking about the crease. So this is not what the gentleman was saying, but it is a crease. All right. So in this case, the healing brush is perfect. But if it's across the face, you're going to have to be a little more subtle. So this is not a crease, this is a mark, but I made my brush a little smaller and I'm just a little more careful. But I can apply the same principle.
So if you use a smaller brush, it will show up like less vivid, right? And less.
Let's say if you use a smaller brush, you have more control.
Oh, there
How's
you go.
that?
Okay, yeah.
How's that? Yeah. So, any questions? Yeah. No, definitely. Yeah, in high school, we had to retouch our prints with a brush and ink. You know, we were just doing dust spotting. I did a horrible job at that. But we didn't have to do it for long because it's like, all right, just make sure to your spray get the dust off the negative, you know. But no, I'm a digital person professionally, yeah. But when I did start as a photographer, we were shooting film, but scanning it. You know, now there's no film. I found this. By the way, let's just say we have these pictures here. You were saying scanning 2, or like I want to scan 2 on a page, blah, blah, blah. And I wanted to show you how convenient that is, but also some of the pitfalls. So let me fix my settings here, 300. All right, so here we have 2 pictures. Should I do 2 separate scans, or can I scan it at once? So the common sense would be make one big area, right? Scan it like this, and then crop it and save at whatever. But with the scanner, every scanner, and I know for a fact the Epson, as I'm going to show you, I can do one at a time. But make it do the work. Watch this. I'm going to make another box. So now I have 2 bounding boxes going. Now I got to make sure my settings are right. And what is the magic number? Yes. All right, so I check that box here. I look at this, it says 300. I go to this box here. You see what I mean by box? Box with marching ants around the image. 300, 300. And by the way, a lot of scanners will offer you filters like sharpening and color, don't do any settings in your scanner. Just tell the scanner, I just want the scan. Just give me the facts. All right? That's all I want. And so what it's going to do is it's going to go through here and scan both of them. And I tell it 006, this is still Erebro. And it's going to go through, it's going to scan this one, save it, scan the next one, save it. It's pretty cool. Say that again? It will give it different names, right? It will give it, like that one was number 7. The next one will be number 8. And yeah. Oh, I didn't, you know what? I didn't, I had to shift click, then it does both. Because you have to have both bounding boxes look like marching ants. If they're not both marching ants. And I'm going to tell y'all, Epson scanner is so, I mean, it looks complex, it is to a degree, but it's so easy to use. So I really recommend, if you're looking for a scanner, go with Epson. I really recommend it. And look, it says scanning 1 of 2, 2 of 2, that's what we wanted. And now it's doing it. All right, yes?
Well, now you have a separate scanner.
Yes.
Today we have printer, scanner, like it does everything.
All in ones. Yeah.
And the ones that are connected to a printer
Yeah.
are just as good as the one you have at second, right?
Depending on the brand.
Well, I mean,
Assuming in an Epson, right?
Right.
Yes. For me personally, I use an all-in-one. I use an HP 8600, and it's just wonderful for business.
excellent, yes, I thought HP.
Yeah, and we scan our receipts with it. My children's school papers, yeah, it just stick it all in there, right? The bills, digitize, right? HP.
8600.
Yeah, it's an office jet. It's all in one. Fax,
Yeah, but I don't know.
whatever. Yeah. But not for your. But if you get an Epson all in one, great. The only problem I have with that is that if your printer goes bad, the printer part, your scanner's useless. It's useless. I mean, it's like, well, fine, you don't have to print for me, Mr. Epson. I just want to scan. No, it's going to tell you error. Boom, landfill. Get another one. You see what I'm saying? So, it's just for me personally.
You answered my question. I've been wanting to,
Yeah.
I just do scanning.
Yeah.
And I use the printer, but get the separate scan.
And here's another reason why is you can invest in a nice flatbed scanner and keep it a long time. You know what I mean? Inkjet printers have a lot of mechanical parts. A scanner has basically a light bulb that goes back and forth. You know? So your printer's gonna wear out before your scanner, the printer portion, you know, but it just depends on your priorities, you know? I think it's fine if you want to do that. You might spend the same amount of money too. All right. So from here, I wanted to just get onto, perfect, while we're at the end, about color correction. Notice that this is kind of dark, all right? This, how can I say, every picture needs color correction. And as pictures age, they either get darker or lighter. And if you've got what's called a tintype, you know, you'll see that they actually get darker. No matter what, they don't get lighter. But prints can either get darker or lighter, it just depends. So how do we do that? Let's see if I have. No, this is not a tintype. It's like cabinet card in as far as the type of paper, but yeah. So here I say on step number 4 in Restore It, I say correct overall color. Use the levels command if you're not a retouching geek like me. All right, so what does that mean? All right, levels is an easy way to color correct, and all the programs have a levels type of color correction function. In my course, I take you through various exercises to learn it, but here, for today, I'll show you a quick way. If you have elements, it's going to be enhance, adjust, lighting, levels. It's a real good command here. And it brings up this funky looking box. And when you scan, even if it's a black and white picture, you should be scanning in color.
Right.
Yeah. Anyone know why?
To bring out the depth and because it has color.
That's right.
It's like black and white TV.
That's right. That's right. Detail. There's detail because your scanner technically has picks up 3 different channels of information. And the more channels you have, the more depth, the more contrast, the more saturation, you could say, even, the more detail. 3 channels is better than 1. Think of it. In technical geek speak, a channel contains 8 bits of information. But if you do 3 channels, you get 3 times 8, which is 24. 24-bit depth. So I'm 24 bits deeper than I would be with 1 channel if I scanned it, telling the scanner. Let me show you. Let me show you right here. Look at this. 24 bit. Oh, look at that. It even tells us the math. But if I did grayscale or black and white, no, do color. Now, if you are scanning the Nordic Family Genealogy Center programs for 2015, yeah, black and white, it's perfectly accepted. There's no depth. This is black text on white paper. You don't need a giant file, 4 megabyte file for this. What I love the Nordic Family Genealogy Center, I want my children to remember that this was the program in 2015. Okay, then do grayscale. All right? You'll have 8 bits as opposed to 2 bit or 1 bit. Anyways, bit. Let's get to what I'm talking about here. Let's fix the levels now in each channel. Let's go to the red. What we do is we look at this mountain here. This mountain, we want to bring this slider on the left, and this oh, let me merge this now, sorry. Don't worry about that right now. Where am I? Adjust. Here we go. We go to the channel of red, we bring this slider to the left, and this slider, I think that spike is actually the white area down here that it's picking, so we're going to go past that. Here. Isn't that pretty? You're like, Eric, I think you messed it up. No, I didn't. Trust me. Trust me. You're like, I don't like this ride, Eric. It's looking really bad. And I'm moving green. You don't have to know any color. You could be perfectly colorblind. Just move the sliders to the edge of the mountain. And you hit OK. Now look at this. Before, after. Now, of course, because I've enhanced this, and you can't really see it from up there because of the, projector, I've enhanced the defects in the color too. I've brought out these weird splotches of yellow and red and whatever, but I made this thing really pop. I went to the maximum of making, but look at how much more detail, look at how he really pops out at you as opposed to this. Yeah, all right. So that's your color correction stage. That comes after your minor cleanup, then your major repair, then you do your color. And then from here you can print it or share it. You can use a service like, I think Kodak, no, Kodak does it, do they still do it? Shutterfly, wherever, I use Shutterfly. Yeah, Fish something. Snapfish, all those competitors, and they make digital prints on real photographic paper. It's good stuff, Now if you have me print, if you hired me to restore it, and you hired me to print it, you would pay quite a bit, but, you can do it yourself.